Hello everyone! In this video, I have prepared for you one of the most beautiful games I have ever seen. And probably you too. It was played back in 1948 between Boris Sif, a player about whom we know very little, and Grandmaster Isaac Kashdan, an American Grandmaster, writer, and at one point in his life, he was in the top 10 strongest chess players of that time. So, we will watch the game from Boris Sif, playing with the white pieces. The game begins with d4 from Boris. Knight f6, c4. White takes the center with his pawns, but black is not sleeping, e6, later planning to strike in the center with d5. The knight comes to c3, and black places the bishop on b4, pinning it to the king, and maybe wanting to take this knight and spoil white's pawn structure. White plays queen c2, not allowing this to happen. Now, if black captures, he will take with the queen. Black answers in the center with d5. White drives the black bishop away, checking his intentions. Does he want to capture or retreat? The bishop goes back to e7, and after the pawn exchange on d5, the white bishop comes out to f4. There appears the threat of knight b5, and the pawn on c7 will be in trouble with a fork on the rook and the king. But the Grandmaster, of course, does not miss this. He plays c6, taking control of the b5 square. And white plays h3, giving his bishop a way to escape if needed. Kashdan hides his king, while white still has some work to do. He plays e3, opening the path for his bishop. Rook e8. The bishop comes to d3, aiming at the pawn on h7, and black develops the queenside. Knight d7, knight f3, and black redirects his knight to f8. The route is clear, either to g6, or maybe to e6, or simply to support the pawn on h7 if needed. White jumps with the knight to e5, not yet showing where he wants to castle. Bishop d6, hinting at the exchange of dark-squared bishops in the future, and white finally castles. The knight comes to e6, chasing away the white bishop. The bishop retreats to h2, and g6 is played, placing a wedge against the light-squared bishop of white, and making sure this battery does not work too much anymore. White returns his knight to f3 and already offers an exchange of dark-squared bishops. Black refuses for now and makes a truly Grandmaster move. The knight goes to g7. Yes, the knight lost many tempos trying to reach this square, but nothing critical. The position in the center is stable, and white cannot take advantage of it. With the knight on g7, black will solve the problem of his undeveloped bishop, which is locked behind his pawns, and it will come out to an active position on f5, exchanging itself for a more active opponent. Boris decides to exchange bishops on d6, and after the queen takes on d6, he plays rook c1. Quite a good idea, since white's pawn structure points to the queen side, and black's to the king side. Black develops his last minor piece, catching the bishop for an exchange. Now it cannot move away because of the queen. White transfers his knight to d2, maybe closer to the queen side in the future. Rook a7, preparing to double rooks on the e-file. And here, unpleasant signals may already start for white. But he plays before. His plan is the minority attack on the queen side, ideally to push the pawn to b5, exchange, and create a weak pawn for black. The Grandmaster brings his last inactive piece into action, and the rook looks menacingly at the pawn on e3 along the e-file. White moves his rook to b1, and let us look at the picture of the game now. White has all his pieces in the center, and mostly on the queen side. Black has all his pieces aiming at the king side. Rook's in the center, the queen ready to join everywhere, plus the knight with the bishop, and another knight can join the play at any moment. Taking advantage of the distance of white's pieces from his king, black delivers the first blow. The bishop captures on h3, sacrificing itself just for a pawn. Let us figure this out. White, of course, must take this bishop, otherwise he is simply left down a pawn and black begins his attack. So, white captures this bishop. But here comes a truly unexpected blow. Try to find the strongest move in this position for black. Let us count 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and the move is rook e3, exactly as was played in the game. So black sacrifices the second piece in a row just for one pawn. This time, even a whole rook. White decides not to take this rook, but instead brings the bishop back, at least one piece to defend his king. But let us see what would have happened if white had taken this rook. If he takes it, then he loses almost immediately. The queen comes to g3 with check, and wherever the king goes, he will be attacked mercilessly. The king must retreat either to h1 or to f1, and basically, these are equal retreats. If he goes to h1, then the queen takes on h3, and after check and king h1, the knight jumps to g4, threatening mate in 1 with the queen on h2. White is forced to bring the knight to f1, defending this way, but white is forced to give up his queen, because after knight h2, this knight must be captured. Otherwise, it is mate to the white king, and after the capture, black has an extra queen. White has no compensation at all. After calculating the variations, white understood that taking the rook on e3 is absolutely unprofitable. So he plays the strongest move, the strictly only one. The bishop comes to f1, defending his pawn on h3, and now the rook is under attack. Yes, now it can even be captured later, but black says, take it with pleasure. Out of the blue comes the move knight f5. This very knight from g7 now plays one of the most important roles in this game. The knight comes to f5. Black again offers white to take the rook on e3. And it must be said, this rook white actually must take now. It is the best move to hold in this game. So, he captures the rook on e3. In the end, black is missing a bishop and a rook just for 2 pawns, but he has a stunning attack. The queen flies to g3. Check. White finally can block with his bishop. For now, it is the only piece that defends the king. The queen takes the pawn on e3 with check. Going with the king to f1 is impossible. Then mate in 1 follows, knight g3. The queen controls all the squares of the white king, so white must retreat with the king to h1. In principle, he could have gone to h2, but then there would be queen f4, a bit worse. Knight g3, check. The white king continues to be trampled by hooves. The only retreat is king h2 and queen f4, building all sorts of mating threats. The queen stands in X-ray against the white king, in case the knight moves away. And white must decide something here. He plays knight f3. This way, in some lines, taking the g2 square, so the queen cannot deliver mate. But here is the problem. Yes, white would be fine, if not for this move made by black. He sacrifices yet another rook on e2. Isaac continues to create brilliance in this game with another stunning move. He attacks the queen and also the most important defender of the white king, the bishop on g2. White has no real choice. He will lose his queen anyway. Boris, after calculating one line, decides to accept the sacrifice, and he captures this rook with the knight. The knight takes on e2. Black now has only 2 knights and the queen, while white has 2 extra rooks and even a bishop. But here comes the trouble. The powerful pieces of white almost do not take part in the defense of his king, the most important piece. After the knight takes on e2, black, of course, captures this knight, and the queen opens up. This is a discovered check. The king is forced to retreat. The king goes to h1. It may seem that white has survived the attack. No immediate mating threats are visible, but, damn it, the Grandmaster harnesses his last horse into the attack. Knight h5 now threatens a terrifying check with the knight on g3. The king will be practically packed in a box, and capturing the unprotected knight is also impossible, because after the capture, there follows a check with the knight on g3, a fork on the king and the queen. With his last clearly weakening strength, white plays queen d2. The idea of this move is that if, for example, black plays knight g3, king h2, then no particularly strong discovered check will exist, because then white will take the queen on f4. And also the queen on d2 is protected by his knight in case of an exchange. Knight g3, check, king h2, and knight f1, a double check to the white king. It is impossible to block a double check. He must run. King h1, and it seems everything is fine, as if there is no mate, but it exists. Kashdan finishes his symphony with a queen sacrifice on h2. The queen is sacrificed. He must capture it, otherwise it is mate. The knight takes on h2. White suddenly gets 3 extra pieces, a queen and 2 rooks, but they do not help him at all, because in this position, 2 knights are much stronger than all the white pieces combined. The knight returns to g3. In the end, The white king does not even see what struck him. The knight from e2 covers the g1 square, and the knight on g3 delivers the mortal check and mate. An absolutely brilliant attack by black in this game. He sacrificed all his pieces except 2 knights, which delivered the fatal blow. Thanks for watching. If you liked this game, write in the comments, leave a like, and you can also support the further development of the channel via the links in the description. See you soon.